We're here on docket 0896, indication from Eneida Tavares, chair of the election for approval of a citizen petition entitled an elected Boston School Committee for the placement of a local non-binding public opinion advisory question on the ballot of the next regular municipal election on November 2nd, 2021. This was referred to the committee on August 18th, 2021. In accordance with the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, we are hosting this hearing virtually via Zoom. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while adhering to public health accommodations. The public may watch this hearing via live stream at www.boston.gov/city-council-tv and on Xfinity 8, RCN 82, Verizon 964. It will also be rebroadcasted at a later date. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov. Also, if you have other public comments, you may email them to christine.o'donnell@boston.gov. Docket 0896, if approved by the City Council and Mayor, would place a non-binding public opinion question on the ballot for a regular municipal election. The non-binding question is as follows. Should the current appointed school committee structure be changed to a school committee elected by the residents of Boston? The following individuals are participating on behalf of the administration: Sabino Piemonte, Assistant Registrar. Also joining us today are Councilors Braden, Councilors Mejia, and Councilor Flynn. Just checking the attendee list. I believe we also have, as part of our panelists, Lee Nave Jr. and Lisa Green. So I'm going to go ahead and have the councilors speak in order of arrival. I believe we have Councilor Flynn. Is Councilor Arroyo also here? Councilor Mejia, and then Councilor Braden. Did I miss Councilor Arroyo? Maybe he's not here. Either way, we'll kick it off and turn it over. Oh, yes, there you are, Councilor Arroyo.
Here. Sorry about that.
No problem. We'll have Councilor Flynn go, then Councilor Arroyo, then Councilor Mejia, then Councilor Braden. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards, for chairing this important hearing. Thank you to City Council Central staff as well for your professional work. I know that this is a citizen's petition for the placement of a non-binding question on the ballot to see what the public opinion is for an elected school committee. It is the citizen's right to have a petition placed on the ballot, so I would, of course, support that petition. The question would also give city leaders greater insight into what residents think of the structure of the Boston School Committee, which is a critical decision-making body in our city. I support an elected school committee. I think it is critical that we have a school committee that are representatives of our residents. Community voices should be heard at the center of decision-making. And school issues are critical areas where community input should be at the forefront. I think an elected school committee would also help residents and enable residents to contact their school committee member on a personal level as an elected official. In developing that personal relationship, I think, is also part of the process. I look forward to hearing more about the details in the process relating to this petition, and looking forward to hearing from residents especially, and in my fellow councilors as well. Thank you, Councilor Edwards, and thank you to the city officials as well that are here with us.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm actually on the move because there's a dedication in my district today for a really great person who passed away last year. But I couldn't be more in support of allowing the city of Boston to have a voice in what's going to happen to the school committee in the future. Obviously, this has been a hot button issue for probably since actually the creation of this in 1992. And so letting the city of Boston get a chance to weigh in on how they feel about this particular issue and guide essentially our thinking and our voting in the future on whether or not we even make any changes will be dictated largely by what the response is to this ballot initiative. So from my standpoint, I support the ballot initiative, but I also support an elected school committee. I think it's something that adds transparency and accountability to a body that has often not necessarily demonstrated those qualities. And so this is something that I think is good for Boston because it gives us a chance to let Boston essentially dictate its future. But also it's something that I believe in terms of what it is bringing is good for Boston. I know that we have recently faced some broadsides in terms of conversation on this. I think the Globe wrote an op-ed on this where they came out against an elected school committee or called it a squabble. But I don't see a similar attempt to tell our neighbors or our neighboring communities or any of the other cities in Massachusetts that they should give up their elected school committee for an appointed board. And so in this moment in time where Boston is the only community in the state that doesn't have an elected board, I think it's important to give the city a chance to speak on that. I think it's important to give us a chance to have some guidance from the voters as to what they want for their school committee and for their children. And I think it's important that as other folks opine on this, that we be fair about the reality that we're not seeing strong advocates. I've never seen a piece in any newspaper that I can think of that has called for Somerville or Cambridge or any other municipality to give up their elected school committee. And so I don't know why we would say that that is a minor issue for the city of Boston or something that we should also just easily hand over. And so thank you, Madam Chair, and I look forward to hearing from other folks.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia.
Yes. Thank you, Councilor Edwards, for chairing this hearing. We have been having the same conversations in the city for decades, and this is the time for us to flex our political muscle and actually do something about it. Returning to an elected school committee has always been the priority for Black and Brown communities in particular. And since having, even before Boston switched to an appointed committee, Black and Brown residents have been fighting to hold our school committee members accountable at the voting booth. And what we are seeing now with this citizens' petition is a milestone in that work. And I am proud to have co-sponsored a home rule petition to return to an elected school committee alongside Councilor Arroyo. But the filing of this petition is really just the beginning. As elected officials, we have a responsibility to make sure that the voices of the people are heard. I look forward to working alongside everyone to making sure that those results of the citizens' petition comes to life. And I'm incredibly grateful to the advocates who helped make it happen. I remember years ago working in the education space and saw members of the CPC, which is the Boston Parent Council, working really hard on the issues that they deeply care about and always being neglected or unheard. So a big shout out to Christine Johnson, Peshan, Lisa Green, Anna DeGeorge, and all of those advocates and parents who have volunteered countless hours in the quest for fighting for equity and literally justice for all of our students. So I think that this is a moment of restorative justice. This is an opportunity for us to give the people back the power and for people to elect those who are going to best represent them and their values and their issues. And so incredibly grateful to everyone who got us this far and looking forward to putting this on the ballot, and more importantly, a favorable return to giving people back the power. So thank you so very much. And I wholeheartedly support an elected school board, if that's not obvious. Thank you.
Councilor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the sponsors of this initiative. I think it's really important that the citizens of Boston able to weigh in on this issue, and I hope we have a vigorous and thorough conversation about the merits of an elected school committee. It's been a while since we had an elected school committee because of problems, and I think we're in a very, very different place right now as a city. So I'm very encouraged that this initiative is coming forward and that we can have a big discussion about how our school committee works and who would be elected to this body. And I think it's really important that the public are allowed to weigh in on this. So thank you. And thank you to Sabino and all the folks from the administration who are here to join the conversation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just end the council comments with stating, just a reminder to folks, this is a non-binding resolution. So however it comes down, if it were to come down, the majority of people in Boston would like an elected school committee that is not binding and does not automatically create an elected school committee. And I just want to set expectations very clear. This is a matter of at least allowing the people of Boston to voice what they do or don't want. And I think that would help to push for and support the home rule petition Councilor Arroyo has filed, and also any other initiative to ultimately bring back an elected or hybrid or whatever form of school committee that allows for the people of Boston to have a voice. But this is, again, non-binding. So I just want people to understand that. So I'm going to now turn it over to Sabino Piemonte, and then we'll go to Lisa Green and then Lee Nave.
Good morning, committee members. Thank you for holding this session today. My name is Sabino Piemonte. I'm the head assistant registrar of voters for the City of Boston Election Department. The department provides fair and equitable elections in a safe manner. And I just want to put a reminder out there that the preliminary municipal election is this coming Tuesday on September 14th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please go out and vote and spread the word. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have in this matter. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And then before we go to the panelists, again, just a reminder, this is not a debate as to whether it should or shouldn't be an elected school committee. The question is formed. So if people have comments or questions about the actual question that if approved would be on the ballot, I prefer that the questions and our comments and conversation be dedicated to that. Again, we will let the people of Boston decide if they want or what they would prefer. But today's conversation is about encouraging the city council to pass this question onto the ballot and to get it on the ballot on November 2nd. So as I stated, we'll go to some of the people who actually helped to present this. This is an initiative that was started by the people of Boston. So I want to acknowledge that. This was a process that 10 people came together and they filed the question, and ultimately we're debating that question right now, whether it goes in the ballot, but it came directly from the people of Boston. So one of those people from Boston is Lisa Green. We're going to turn the microphone over to her, and then after it, we'll turn it over to Lee Nave. Lisa?
Hi. Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Thanks for having me here. Oh, and my dog is going to act up. I'm going to throw her a treat and see if that keeps her busy for 2 minutes while I talk. But thanks for having me here. My name is Lisa Green, and I'm here representing Bostonians for an elected school committee. As the councilor just said, we came together to organize for changing Boston's current appointed school committee structure. We believe it's critically important for the voice of the people of Boston to be heard on this issue, and we're here to urge the chair to recommend that the city council vote to place this question on November's ballot at its meeting on Wednesday. Our committee was organized to work on this proposed ballot question. We represent a growing movement of individuals and organizations from across the city committed to working together to bring democracy back to the governance of Boston schools. Our steering committee includes a diverse array of organizations, including Black Educators Alliance of Massachusetts, Boston Coalition for Education Equity, Boston Education Justice Alliance, Boston Teachers Union, Citizens for Public Schools, my list there, Citizens for Public Schools, Jamaica Plain Progressives, Healthy Food for Boston Schools Organizing Network, Mass Alliance, Massachusetts Asian American Educators Alliance, Mehente, NAACP Boston Branch, Progressive West Roxbury Rosdale, Quality Education for Every Student, Showing Up for Racial Justice. We really think that Jean McGuire, the first Black woman elected to the Boston City Council, said it best. When she signed our petition for this ballot question on electing Boston School Committee, Dr. McGuire said, "The sine qua non of citizenship is the right to vote. It's your voice. Never give it up. People died for that right. A democratic government is responsible directly to the voters. That's fundamental." When the elected Boston School Committee was abolished in 1991, Jean McGuire lost her ability to represent her constituents. So did the other committee members. At the time, the school committee was more representative of the city of Boston than ever before. Boston's communities of color had more seats than they had at any point up until that point. The result for Boston schools, then suddenly, at the time, my dog. At the time, the school committee was more representative of the city than ever before. Boston's communities of color were finally being heard in the halls of power. That suddenly stopped when the elected school committee was abolished. The result for Boston's public schools has been a long and disappointing record of school decisions that often haven't been in the best interest of students, especially low-income students of color. There are 351 towns and cities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and only one denies voters the right to elect their own school committee. Public dissatisfaction with the current school committee structure is widespread, but it's anecdotal unless we can quantify it, and fruitless unless we do something with it. We believe now is the time to ask the voters of Boston directly whether they want to have the same right as the rest of the residents of the Commonwealth. And once we have their mandate, let's make sure we make good use of it. We were encouraged to hear that 9 additional city councilors signed on to co-sponsor the home rule petition filed by councilors Arroyo and Mejia, striking the 91 Act, establishing the appointed school committee structure. And we're inspired by the vision of a transparent, accountable, and democratic governance structure for BPS, co-designed with the people of Boston through an open public process. The time to make that vision a reality is now. We urge the chair to refer this docket to the City Council for a vote at its September 15th meeting, and we urge the City Council to vote to place this question on the ballot on November 2nd. Thanks for your time, for the opportunity to speak here, and to both the Elections Department and the City Council for expediting this matter. Thanks so much, and I apologize for the dog.
Thank you, Lisa. Lee Nave.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lee Nave Jr., and I'm an Alston resident and father of a future BPS kid. I also had the honor of signing a petition to get the elected school committee on the ballot for this November. I'd like to start off by first thanking the authors of this extremely important resolution and also the home rule petition. Thank you to Councilor Edwards for chairing today's hearing. Thank you to the education advocates, a mix of education policy professionals, concerned parents and students, teachers, and an array of citizens fighting to bring back democracy. This fight is fundamental in the sense that it involves around a key tenet at the very core of our society, education. The concept of a public education developed here, right now, down the street, has for nearly 30 years been dictated from an undemocratic process. In a state with over 350 towns and communities, the very mecca of the Commonwealth, the mecca of education around the entire country, and some would argue the world, has had its citizens stripped of the right to determine who makes the key decisions for our children's future. I have a 16-month-old who will one day, sooner than later, be a BPS student. When my child goes to school down the street or across town, I'm hopeful decision makers are elected through a democratic process. This process starts in November if you, the chair, recommend this goes up to vote before the council this Wednesday. It gives the people of Boston the option to choose if an elected school committee returns back into our hands. With recent polls by Boston Globe and Suffolk University showing that less than 10% support our current appointed school committee model, this decision is a popular one I'm sure most of your constituents would support. I urge a vote for the passage of a home rule petition as well as a resolution, and to allow Bostonians to play a central role in determining the education and future of our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to do a round from the counselors if they have any questions. Again, focusing on the question at hand to be placed on the ballot. This is not a conversation about whether we do or don't want an elected school committee. While it's important that folks can voice that, again, the reason why we're having this government ops hearing is to determine whether the city council shall place a question on the ballot. So we can go back in order of arrival, and maybe you can express your thoughts about having this question on the ballot or not, and if you have any thoughts about the actual question. Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. I agree with everything everyone said about the question. I think the question was clearly written and easy to read and easy to understand. So as it relates to the question, I'm fine with it. I'm just thinking, Councilor Edwards, would the City of Boston Election Department notify residents or, also elected officials such as ourselves? Certainly can do it, but would we formally notify voters that there will be a ballot question that is non-binding, but there will be a ballot question on the ballot, and give them a little bit of background about it, and also let them do some research on their own before they get to the ballot box in November?
I think that question is for Sabino Samonte. Will there be a push on the ballot questions? And for everyone's background, there will be now 3 ballot questions. There will be the binding ballot question to change our charter. That does have a public notification requirement, and every resident with a registered voter will get a copy of it. Then there's the non-binding question that we will be voting on for East Boston Substation, concerning East Boston Substation. And then we have this non-binding question on the elected school committee. But to Sabina Pamonte, do you have any thoughts, or what are the requirements for public notification about the non-binding questions?
Sure. From my understanding, in regards to non-binding questions, we do not have any authority to do any kind of publicizing on it, but we will be putting it on our website and any social media to let people know that there will be questions on the ballot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was that all, Councilor Flynn?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Edwards. That information Sabino provided is helpful. So it's up to, also it's up to us as elected officials, but also residents of the community to educate people about the ballot, about the question, I should say. And I guess my final question is to Sabino. And I know this is an issue I focus on a lot, but in terms of the ballot itself, the question on the ballot will certainly be written in various languages, including Spanish, including Chinese. What other languages would it be written in, Sabino?
So the ballots that the City of Boston provides for all voters is English and Spanish, English and Chinese, and English and Vietnamese.
Oh, okay. English, okay. English and Spanish, English and Chinese, English and Vietnamese. I know that's what we provide, but just generally speaking, is that enough?
That's all that we can do based upon the way the law is written and the requirements of.
Okay, no, I understand. Thank you, Sabino. Just maybe down the road, we should, as a body, take a look at whether we want to include other languages. I know we probably have to get state approval to do that, but just something to think about as another challenge that we might want to address down the road. Anyway, thank you, Sabino. Thank you, Councilor Edwards. I have no further questions.
Councilor Arroyo? He might be, I think he said he was in transition, so we'll come back to him. Councilor Mejia?
I don't have any questions. Just wanted to, again, reinforce our support for this. And I do agree and echo Councilor Flynn's comments in terms of the importance of making sure that we're informing voters who speak multiple language, different languages other than English. And I know through our language access ordinance, we talked about information justice and the importance of making sure that we're super mindful of those folks who even have interrupted education and don't know how to read and write. So I just think that the information needs to, like audio and visuals, I think, Sabino, we should consider in terms of in the future, and if not now, how we can disseminate this information in ways that everyone can access it. It's just something really important for us to keep top of mind. But no, I don't have any questions. I think the advocates did an amazing job at drafting up a question that would work, and no feedback. I'm just here to support.
Councillor Braden might be.
I'm still here. Thank you. I think the question is really clearly written. There's no ambiguity or confusion in it. I don't have any further questions.
I don't have any questions either. I intend to bring this for a vote on the 15th for our colleagues to ultimately determine whether this should be on the ballot on November 2nd. So I don't know if anyone has anything else. I think I want to congratulate the advocates on being clear in their question writing and following the process to a T and making sure it got here in a timely manner. And so it's our job to make sure it's voted on in a timely manner. So unless there are any other comments or questions or concerns, I think we will be pushing this to a vote for the non-binding question to be determined by the City Council as to whether it will be on the ballot November 2nd.
Councilor Edwards, Could I add something?
Absolutely.
I just want to make it clear that the preliminary is September 14th. Barring any issues, we look to try to create the positioning of the ballot and finalize the election the week after. So timing of us getting the information for this and all the other questions is critical. We do have vote by mail, and we need to prepare those ballots in a timely fashion. We have close to 50,000 requests in our queue waiting for November, and any delay in us getting this information will delay us getting those ballots printed and out to the voters to vote. So if you can take that into consideration, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and we absolutely do. Councillor Flynn, a concluding remark, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry to take up too much of the time. I just wanted to ask Sabino, and I don't necessarily need an answer now, but I figured I have the opportunity. So on it's unrelated, but the City Council election and the mayor's election, I just want to make sure that we are prepared if there is a count that we have to count the votes again because the election is so close. But does that impact getting our ballot ready for? If it takes a while, does that impact our ballot to get it ready for November? Well, can you just briefly run through that process? Again, I apologize. It's somewhat unrelated, but I just wanted to get that information.
Sure, Councilor. Like I said, the election for September 14th will be finalized. I believe it's on Monday, the 20th. Barring any recounts or any review of any votes, we will proceed to get a new ballot order for the November election within 24 to 48 hours of us certifying the election results. But if there was something that we had to review, we will do it in a timely fashion to try not to interrupt any processes that we have set in place for November.
Okay, thank you, Sabino. Thank you, Councilor Edwards.
Thank you for the question. All right, everyone. I'm going to conclude today's hearing. As I've stated, I will bring the question before the body on the 15th. All the best. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.